I'm Dan Hamilton, Marine Corps veteran and host of the Next Gen Warrior Show. As always, the Next Gen Warrior Show is brought to you by Chairman George B. Bush and our dedicated staff at the Texas Veterans Land Board. We're proud every Monday to bring you the success stories and the achievements of veterans and those in the armed forces here in the great state of Texas and around the country. Joining me today is Jesse Iwuji. We're going to have a chance to talk about racing. We're going to be able to talk about football. And we're also going to be able to talk about his military service as a Naval Special Warfare Officer. Jesse, how are you today? Thanks for being on the program.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So let's start not with the racing part. I want to go back prior to that and talk to me about your military service.
Yeah. So, well, even before that, I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. Grew up there my whole life, and while growing up there, I just found this passion for football. Obviously, because football is really big in Texas. So, worked really hard in middle school and high school to eventually put myself in a position where I was good enough to get recruited by some schools. And I had this big goal of going off to college, playing college football, and wasn't sure exactly where I wanted to go. But I knew, hey, as long as I put in a ton of effort and I grind every single day and a lot of energy and focused energy towards this, eventually I'll get seen by some school that's, that will eventually pick me up and I'll go play there. So once I got to my senior year in high school at Hebron High School in Carrollton, Texas, the Naval Academy had came by and they actually started recruiting me. One of the coaches was watching, all my progress and saw that, hey, this kid could be, a great asset for the academy, from eventually being an officer, but also, playing football. So I looked at it as a great opportunity to go to a really good school, get a great education, play football for a great team. And then when I graduate, be able to pretty much have a career started for me as an officer in the United States Navy. And that's what led me towards, heading to the Naval Academy, which is kind of what started my Navy career. And from there, played football 4 years at the Naval Academy. Graduated in 2010, became a surface warfare officer, which is on the ships. I was on 2 different ships to kick off my Navy career. First ship was a minesweeper for 2 years. Second ship was an amphib for another 2 years. Went on 2 different deployments between both of those ships, and then transitioned to shore duty in 2015, where I was on shore duty in Monterey, California. So San Diego, Monterey, not too bad of places to be stationed at for your first 7 years in the Navy.
No, that's really true. I actually was stationed at Camp Pendleton for a couple of years, and I felt the same way. I was like, hey, man, sometimes the running up and down those hills isn't fun, but for a duty station, it's not a bad place to be. But I want to go back and ask you about the balance between being an athlete at the Naval Academy as well as being a student. Unfortunately, I know Navy didn't have a great game against Army a couple weeks ago. That was a disappointing one to watch, but talk to me about maybe the rigors and how you were able to balance your academic life as well as playing football for 4 years.
Yeah, the balance between football and academics at the Naval Academy is difficult because football is its own full-time job, basically. You go to any other school. I mean, these guys, they spend 90% of their time doing football related stuff, the other 10% doing classwork. And they give them, 11, 12 hours, 12 credit hours a semester or something like that. Whereas at the Naval Academy for us, football is not an excuse. Like, you still have to do all your regular academic chores, which is all the homework, all the projects, all the labs, everything. I mean, all the football players, we're all pretty much at anywhere between 18 to 22 credit hours a semester, majority of your time there at the academy. And these classes we're taking, they're not just, powder cake type classes. You're taking calculus 1, calculus 2, calculus 3, physics 1, physics 2, physics 3, chemistry 1, chemistry 2, thermodynamics, all these different classes you have to take at the academy, no matter what your major is. Even if you're an English major, you're still taking calculus 3. So definitely difficult for sure, but understanding time management, that's what I had to learn there. I had to understand that, hey, there's 24 hours in a day. I got to break it down in a way where I can manage all the stuff that I'm doing. Football is going to take a certain amount of time. I'm going to have film, weightlifting, practice. Like, that's going to take a certain amount of time. All the other hours of the day, you got your school that you got to go to classes and stuff. But in the evenings, I have pretty much about 4 or 5 hours in the evening to knock out all the other stuff, like the homework, labs, whatever you got to do. you have that time. So I would break up that time in different ways where I focus, hey, I'm going to spend an hour on this, I'm going to spend an hour on that. And I kept it regimented in that type of way and stay disciplined towards that each year so that I could basically get through my classes and be able to graduate.
So can you tell us what the environment is walking into the through the huddle, or excuse me, through the tunnel out onto the field for the Army-Navy game?
Yeah, coming through the tunnel before the Army-Navy game, and really before any game, there's so much energy, because you don't know what's going to happen next. You're getting out there on the football field. I mean, your skills as a football player, your team skills as a football player, but football is a game of inches, and you just don't know what's going to happen. That's why you play the game. You can practice all week, we can study film all week, but you just don't know what's going to happen because you just don't know. It's a game. So the energy behind it, you're so hyped. You have so much adrenaline going through your veins. Like so much is happening just prior, and it's all built up in that tunnel. And then the moment, our lead guy has that American flag and starts waving that thing, and then we just all sprint out of there. Oh man, it's just like an unleash. It's like letting a bunch of bulls out.
Yeah. There's no way to replace that, right? I mean,
really
just
isn't.
Like listening to that, it kind of gives me the chills. And to be honest with you, the last time I played football was like 4th or 5th grade, but you're kind of making me want to strap on the pads and the helmet again.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. One of my favorite parts of the game is that lead of just like we're sitting there getting hyped right there in the tunnel, and then all of a sudden, boom, when you hear that cannon shoot, we're sprinting out. You're sprinting out into Ohio State Stadium or something like that. 107,000 people screaming their heads off. You can't even hear yourself like breathe, It's crazy.
So let me ask you about that, because your time at the Naval Academy as a football player is actually what led you to find racing, right? And what has become, I guess, not just a passion of yours, but is now your career.
Yeah, so I've always had a passion for cars and racing. I've always liked cars and racing, but didn't really have the means to do it younger when I was a kid because, we just didn't, football was my thing then. So once I got to college.
You ever get out on the go-kart track then?
I think the first time I got in a go-kart.
Junior high, whip it around?
Maybe in high school I got into some go-karts a few times, but not often, not often enough. Honestly, I probably didn't get into the go-karts until probably like really college. I don't know where the passion for racing really evolved from. I just liked it. I thought it was cool. So in college, I studied like as much YouTube videos as I could at that time because YouTube was still new. Of all different kind of racing series, and I would watch this show called Top Gear. They do all these reviews on cars, and that's how I learned about cars, motors, and all the different parts to them.
You just learned it on YouTube?
On YouTube, yeah, I learned a lot on YouTube, yeah. And
YouTube University, huh?
Basically, YouTube University helped me start my most successful business that I have right now. Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy, right? Learned everything I needed to learn on there. But from there, graduating from college, I finally had a job. I was, in the Navy as an officer. We're getting decent pay. So I was able to go buy, the car that I wanted to buy. I bought a Dodge Challenger and then eventually a Corvette. And I would take these cars to tracks and I would do track days with them. And these track days, anyone could go to. You could bring your mom's minivan to the track if you wanted to, whatever you wanted to bring. So I would bring my personal cars and I would drive them, drag strips, road course tracks, all these different tracks. And I learned how to, basically go fast at these tracks. And that's what really got the bug in me for wanting to actually professionally race. And then from there, it was just having the vision, seeing myself actually becoming a professional driver, and then going after this goal, like with every bit of energy in my body on a daily basis, trying to find new ways to be creative, find new ways to market, find new ways to link up with people, network, everything I could just to continue to advance forward. And going from 2015 through now, we've kind of gone up and up and up, and now I'm in the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
When do you remember the moment or either the day that you were at the track where you went, okay, I think that I can take this from not just something that I enjoy doing or maybe putting money into the car, I'm actually pretty good at this and I think I can turn this into a career? Was there kind of a moment that you can remember in your head or maybe a point in time?
Yeah, so it was in 2014. It was probably after I'd done 3 or 4 track days, at least on the road course side. And I had done those, and I wasn't great yet, but I was getting better. Like each time I went to that track, I was getting better and better. And I just was sitting in my room one night in January 2014. I was like, you know what? Like I feel like I have a little bit of skill in this. I feel like I can get a lot better at it. I really like this a lot. I love cars. If I'm going to spend money on car stuff, for the rest of my life, why not put it towards something that would matter a lot more? Why not take it to the highest level I can? Why not try to become a professional race car driver? And I pulled my whiteboard off my wall, erased whatever I had on it, and I just wrote one big goal: become a professional race car driver. And that is where the journey began. And that was the turning moment, like right there. I didn't know where to go, what to do right after, but I did know, hey, use my mind, research a little bit, go online, try to figure out what are the different paths to take to get into professional racing. What are the different professional racing series out there? Here in Europe, Asia, wherever, where are they all at? What can I do? What's attainable? What can I get to now? What can I start doing now? And while you start putting this energy into the universe, you're throwing these vibrations into the universe.
Yeah.
Universe captures it and it sees that, hey, this guy's trying to do this, and he's actually putting some energy into this thing. Like you feel it. All of a sudden, doors start landing in your path, and the first door that landed in my path was I went to a car show randomly. Had nothing to do with racing, but I happened to run into a guy there who was racing late model stock cars. And he just kind of felt the energy from me. He was like, man, this guy, I think he wants to get into racing, because I was telling him about the cars and track days and all that stuff. He's like, man, this guy, he should probably get into racing. And he asked me to come out to where his team was and do a test with them. And I went and did a test with a stock car on an oval track, and never thought about NASCAR stuff. But I went and did it. And next, it went well. And then from there, I was like, you know what? Maybe this is where I need to be. Maybe this whole NASCAR route is what I need to take. I feel like I'll be different in the sport. I'll be unique. And I feel like there's the most opportunity there in the US. And that's why I went that route.
That's an incredible story. And there's something on this show that I love hearing from our guests, is how they turn energy, like you said, and they turn it into relationships. They try to find where the opportunity is. And if they keep looking for those doors long enough, especially when they pair the talent for what they have with the passion, like you said, it eventually opens up doors. But something that I think is really critical in your story is that the racing that you were doing was actually different than NASCAR racing, right? So how much did you have to learn in terms of actually driving and the technical aspects of driving the car versus what you were just doing maybe on the track by yourself, or going to the track on a weekly basis?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot different for sure. So, prior to actually getting into like a circle track car, I had been in my Corvette. My Corvette, it has good horsepower. And
by the way, man, fast. I love that Corvette. I was looking at your Instagram feed. I'm like, man, if I can come out to where you are, I want to take a lap in that thing, because a Corvette is my favorite car on the planet. My wife can attest to this. And I was like, I'm going to tell Jesse how much but you have the Corvette and you have the GTR. I know it. I don't want to cut you off, but I just wanted to tell you, if you had to pick one, which one would it be?
Man, it's tough. I mean, the Corvette, I would say, because I can do a lot more with it. The GTR is a beast, and it's a classic. The Corvette, I end up having more fun with it because I can really throw that thing around a lot. The GTR is kind of a
beautiful car, man.
Yeah. But the Corvette has power, and it's fun, it's fast, and you go to Auto Club Speedway, you're going like 160 miles per hour into turn one. It's fast, but it's still nothing like a stock car. Like a circle track stock car is a real race car, and real race cars feel way different than regular cars. And I had to learn how to drive a real race car, and it took a little bit. And then I have a simulator at home. I went and bought a racing simulator so I could train myself at home for low cost. Because going and training in a real race car, that costs money. Every time you go jump in that car, at least at that time for that particular car, it was like $700 every single time. So I was like, hey, I can't spend $700 a day to train. Let me go spend $700 on a simulator rig that I can put in my home. I spend it once, and then from there, train on there every single day. And that's what I did. So that when I jumped into the real race car, I felt like I've already done it a million times.
Can you talk a little bit about the barrier to entry? Because if you have to cover that, either that $700 cost over and over again, or you don't have the relationships, you had to find ways to overcome some of those obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm correct here, I believe you started the Red List group, and you're running the Red List group to help other people get into the racing community. Can you talk again, like I said, about some of those barriers to entry and what you kind of learned maybe through that process?
Yeah, the barriers to entry in racing is high, and it's kind of how it is. It's different than football. It's different than basketball.
Yep.
In football, I can go to the store, buy a football, go outside and throw and catch, and learn how to catch a football, learn how to throw it. Or I can go work out really hard in the gym and do some drills on the field to get my feet work better. And then, all of a sudden you can start getting yourself better for your particular sport. Whereas in racing, you got to drive a car, a racing vehicle, to get good at it. And racing vehicles are expensive. Tires are expensive. Fuel, people, transporting the vehicles. You can't usually drive those things on the street. So it isn't all that stuff. That's that barrier of entry. It's just the cost of getting into racing is so high. And what I did to get past that was I started my own business. I basically took the entrepreneurship route, where I pretty much told myself, hey, if I can't find maybe the sponsorship that I need to do it right now, I'll just start my own business and sponsor myself. So I started my own business where I was hosting drag racing events at different tracks nearby me. And I would basically market the events, invite a lot of people to come, charge spectators, racing people, or racing drivers, everybody who's coming to the event would, be charged the entry fee to come into the event. And any extra profit I made from that, I would throw back into my racing. And the event started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It got to a point where I was able to, in all of 2016 and majority of 2017, I pretty much sponsored myself through the business. And then from there, I started getting bigger sponsorships with companies that wanted to align with my journey. And then I didn't have to focus as much on using money from that to sponsor myself, because as I went higher and higher in the ranks of NASCAR, my business was making money, but not enough to keep up with the levels I was getting to. So eventually I would
obstacles of success almost, right? Yeah, victim of your own success.
Pretty much. So as I moved up, it got a little bit more pricey. So I was like, hey, I need to align with companies that are making like millions instead of mine that was just making thousands.
Yeah, they can really knock down those barrier to entry really fast. Can you talk about the team aspect of racing? Because if you're a novice like me, somebody who's maybe unfamiliar with the sport, has never been around a track before, and it's maybe a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, they turn on a NASCAR race. It's more of a team sport than I think a majority of people understand. So can you talk about what should I look for when I am watching the race? And can you also talk about the team aspects? What makes you successful during the day when you're working with either your pit crew or I guess the manager?
Yeah, so there is a big team aspect to NASCAR and all of racing. It's not just a driver on track. You have a crew chief who's sitting on the pit box, who is kind of orchestrating everything. And he's orchestrating the pit crews. He's orchestrating the spotter. Your spotter is the one who's at the top of the grandstands, who's watching down on the track, kind of telling you what's going on the track, who's coming up behind you, because you can't see who's coming up behind you or who's on your side because of the way that your vision is inside the race car. You just can't see. It's not like a normal car where you can just turn around and look back behind you. You can't do that. You're like stuck looking right here, and you have a helmet on, like you can only see like right here.
It's just it's blinders basically,
it's
right?
Blinders, yeah.
Vision, I guess.
So you need someone on the radio telling you that, hey, somebody's on your right rear or your left rear or whatever. So your spotter's on the radio talking to you. You have your crew chief who's orchestrating everything else. Your pit crew's made of 5 people who are jumping over the wall to change your tires, add fuel to your race vehicle, fix any damage, all that stuff. And there's all this communication that has to happen between you and the team, so that you're letting the team know, hey, this is how I'm feeling in the race car. This is what the race car is feeling to me. They make adjustments from there, and then that helps make you faster so that you can accomplish the mission for the day. And then in racing, it's different than other sports. Football, basketball, it's one team versus one other. In racing, you have 40 teams on the grid at once. So everyone's fighting their own battle. Not everyone is capable of winning that race. Only one person's going to win, and the other 39 are going to finish 2nd through 40th. So everyone's fighting their own battle. Some people only have a budget that only allows them to be so fast, that, maybe it's not fast enough to ever win, but it's fast enough that they can at least, finish in the top 10 or something. For them, that's a win. Maybe a top 15 is a win for them. A top 20 is a win. So everyone has their own battle, their own race that they're running. Even though there's one big race happening, there's miniature races happening throughout, and sometimes it's the small budget teams. They're just competing against each other on the track. And then the big budget teams are competing against themselves, even though it all looks like one thing, everyone has their own little battles. So you got to understand where you're at, what your budget is, and what your team is capable of, what your car is capable of that day, and what you as a driver are capable of. And then you just work to progress every race and get better and better so that eventually you can run up front and eventually, win a race.
Take me through either your routine for race day and maybe some of the mental preparation that you do for the race as well.
Yeah, my routine on race day is, it really starts before. The days before, I'm training on my simulator every single day. There's a hydration piece to it. I'm making sure I'm drinking a lot of water and hydrating in every way I can think of. And I try to cut out any type of drinks that might, hurt my hydration. I'm working out each day. I usually don't work out the day of the race or the day before because I want to make sure I maintain as much water as possible inside of me. And then, that day I'm just really kind of clearing my mind. I try to relax as much as possible. Try not to do anything that would stress my body out or my mind out at all, and just relax. That's the biggest thing. And then, always say a prayer night before and the day of, and jump in the car and go racing.
What's the difference in level of excitement for you from the excitement of the tunnel to the excitement of turning on the car and know that you're about to race?
Well, for me, before a race, I actually try to stay as calm as possible. Like in the tunnel for football, you're trying to get as hyped as possible because you got to go out there and you got to go hit somebody.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of get the blood rushing for that. Whereas in racing, you don't want to go hit anybody. So you're trying to stay as calm as possible so that you can be one with the car. It's like you got to find your peace with the race car. Because if you're way too hyped, way too anxious, way too everything, then you're gonna make mistakes out there. You're gonna overdrive the car. You're gonna make mistakes. You got to be calm, cool, collected, so you can focus and have that laser focus every single lap of the race.
Do you have a favorite place to race? Is there a track or a city or a town that you love going to that you feel like you always compete really well and place really well?
Yeah, there's a few tracks I like a lot. Sonoma as a road course, I love that place. It's great. What's the other track I like? Michigan. I like Michigan a lot. I've actually, had some good runs there at Michigan, and that's a fun place to go race at. Daytona is always a good time. Talladega is always a good time. But yeah, road courses are always fun. I like road courses.
Can you name maybe an athlete that you look up to that you kind of and I know race car driving is obviously much different than, but you're a football player as well, but it's a much different sport. And like you even talked about the different mental capacities of trying to calm yourself and prepare yourself mentally for race day. But is there maybe another sport that you look to or another athlete that you look up to, maybe not just for advice, but admire the way that they go about their profession?
Yeah, as far as athletes, I look up to different athletes in all different kind of sports because there's things you can take from all different type of athletes, even though they're not in your sport. LeBron James, just everything he's doing, he's been on top of his game for many, many years, been one of the best basketball players ever in history. Has always, remained like good. He's not getting in trouble doing stupid stuff. And then he's out there winning and he has a championship mentality, which is awesome. Kobe Bryant was one too. Michael Jordan. In the racing world, Ayrton Senna, Lewis Hamilton right now. Dale Earnhardt Jr. I love the way he was able to, have all the success that he had. Also, just say it like a down to earth type person. And but yeah, there's a lot of different athletes I look up to, and I kind of watch their game and see, hey, like what are they doing to train? Like what's their mindset? And then I try to apply that mindset to me.
Yeah. I'm interested to know too, so the track that we have here in Austin is an F1 track. So are you able to have a NASCAR vehicle and drive around the F1 track? Is there any chance that you might be coming here to drive on a track here in Austin, or is it a completely different type of racing and way of thinking, and obviously the cars are different, but is it almost a totally different sport?
Well, yeah, F1 is definitely different than NASCAR for sure. But the funny thing is, in 2021 will be the first year we're actually going to Austin to race at COTA, Circuit of America. So we will be there 2021 in May, racing at that track for the first time ever.
Well, we'll be happy to have you here, and excited to invite you here to Austin and welcome you to the Central Texas area, Jesse. And really congratulations on just an incredible amount of success that you've had. And you've really, I think, done a great job of laying out the vision that you had for yourself and then really pursuing it in a really incredible way. And before we let you go here, I just wanted to see if there was maybe something that we didn't get to hit on or touch on today that you would like to leave our audience with.
No, I think we hit on mainly everything. For those out there with goals and dreams, make sure you continue to go after your passions and don't let people stop you. There's going to be a lot of people out there who will be negative in your life, people who tell you can't do something for whatever reason that is. Don't listen to that stuff. Understand that no one's opinion of you should ever become your reality. Like, your reality is your opinion of yourself. Don't let others and outside opinions shape your world and shape who you're going to be, what you're going to become, unless it's positive stuff. So go after your goals, go after your dreams. Understand it's hard. It's not easy. There's no like 5-step process towards, success. It's more of a mindset thing. If you get your mindset into the right place, you will be successful in life. And getting your mindset in the right place is basically, I call it, jumping out of the airplane with everything in your bag, even though your parachute's not packed properly, maybe, but as long as it's all in the bag, just jump out the plane and figure it out on the way down. When you get your mindset into that type of place where you're comfortable with doing that, then you will put yourself in a position to be successful and achieve whatever goals you want in life.
Well, Jesse, thank you so much for being on the Next Gen Warrior Show and talking to us about your career as well as your military service. We wish you the best of continued luck and look forward to seeing you here in Austin soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. On behalf of Chairman George P. Bush and our staff at the Texas Veterans Land Board, this is a conclusion of the Next Gen Warrior Show. We will see you back here next Monday.
Follow us on Instagram at Voices of Vets, on Twitter at Voice of Veterans, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Voices of Veterans. To hear more, please visit voicesofveterans.org. Join us in sharing the success stories of Texas veterans. Thank you for joining us for the Next Gen Warrior Podcast.